find a parking
And
place.
that's the funky thing about probation, is we got 15 counties that do all different.
Yeah.
Not right or wrong, but the code is so basic. Probation only has to do two things, right? Court reports and provide a juvenile hall. Everything else is at the discretion of the chief.
Yeah.
And anyway, my experience with different chiefs, they do different things. Yeah.
Yes.
And I had those used organizations that are near probation. That's a police military organization. So, you know, it's like
Yes.
drastically different than the way Humboldt down there.
Yeah.
I thought about it.
Yes,
Printed
sir.
this out to give to the chair.
Yeah, I was
today.
out there for
The
5 years.
chair is going to be Tim. And this is what you wrote. So instead of doing it as an ad hoc, we're gonna do it as a site visit and see if we can't do it. You know, instead of doing it.
I'm happy to listen to what their response to that. Track that out. Support that. Yeah, so.
Yes, sir. You may already be aware of that.
How are you?
I'm doing well. Those seats are taking us.
No, it's just my chair.
Are you sure?
I mean, I think I own everything, so.
What my hope is to submit this today. As a site visit,
Good.
as an ad
Talk
hoc,
to my dad.
and see if we can't
He said
go ahead and put this into the record without having to do it all over again. We will be prepared to do an ad hoc request at the next, executive meeting if necessary.
She's not pulling over your family. So you hope to have some of the people on the icon site and we get together, it still feels like a pretty bunch. And I was like, it's so interesting, like, it's like, it's gonna allow you to take long for that. Different state.
Just one more gave you this.
Oh, yeah.
There's actual animal proposal. And that is not because there's been conflict with this. So we went ahead with site visit on 313. In hopes that this would be sufficient for now. If not, then we can proceed with a formal presentation before the executive committee.
When it comes to communications, bring this out.
Okay.
Let everybody be a part of it. And you have more of these.
I have 15 copies total.
You're the man.
This is the copy.
Well, everybody, it looks like it's 12:18.
That's ours.
Let's start with, call the meeting to order and the roll call. And then staff and then guests. So I want to see if we have a quorum or not. Give us the roll call, sir.
Melissa Norman. Paul Montana, excuse. Natalie Royal, excuse. Virginia Bass, excuse. Tim Doty,
Here.
Debbie Hartridge,
Here.
Jeanette Kellerman,
Here.
Vernon Price,
Here.
Oscar McGowan,
Here.
Catherine Smith. I think we do have a form with Steve Madrone's on the soon, so
Did you call Sean's name?
they haven't been,
Oh,
they're not on.
that's, I get it. You're approved, but the board of supervisors.
Updated to the board of supervisors.
Yeah, okay. So we do have a quorum, right, sir?
2, 3, 4. Yeah, we have 6 out of 10, so we do have a form.
And then we can proceed. We got the call to order and then let's introduce staff. Why don't we talk about the staff here in the room and then we'll go on to the Zoom staff.
So I'm Jack Brazil, Deputy Director for Behavioral Health.
Hi, I'm Alex Childers. I use they, them pronouns. I'm a peer coach supporting the Humboldt County Transitioning Youth Collaboration and the Youth Advocacy Board of TA Vision.
Good afternoon, I'm Laurel Johnson. I'm an analyst at the Justice Administration.
I'm Aaron Zell and program manager for SSB, Housing and Homelessness.
We're glad to have you with us. You're gonna be part of the presentation, right?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
All right. So staff, who are on Zoom, you wanna introduce yourself?
Hi, everyone. Sonia Levy Boyd. I use she, her pronouns. I supervise the Humboldt County Transition Age Youth Collaboration and the peer coaches at the TATA Division.
Hi, everyone. Hi, Christine Messenger. I'm with DHHS Communications.
Okay, I just wanted to say, people on Zoom, can you hear us? Clearly, sometimes it has not always, it sounds really clear to me. All right, let's introduce guests with us. You don't have to say your name if you don't want to, but we'd like to know you. They are here, and we'll have a time for public comment if you would like to so do. So guests.
Yes, my name is Judy Pasco, and I'm interested in maybe joining the board because I see there's open spaces. So I'm willing to come to a couple meetings and see what's going on.
Great. I thought I heard you say I'm attractive, but that wasn't the
That is not what I said.
I'm sorry. I can't control myself sometimes.
I'm really awkward.
Guests who are on Zoom.
I'm Suzanne Rye. I'm the clinic manager for North American Mental Health in Eureka.
Great. I'd have you with us.
Good job.
Hi, Mr. Acting Chairman Board. This is Supervisor Madrone filling in for Natalie Arroyo. I'm remote.
right.
I'm remote. I'm on the road, hands-free.
Okay, keep your eyes on the road.
We have one more.
Yes.
I'm Felicity Grayson, and I'm part of Youth Advocacy Board at TAG.
Good. Welcome.
Welcome. Sean Berger.
You still here?
I'm still here.
Okay.
Bob Darty.
Welcome to all. So adjustments to the agenda. Basically, that means moving things around. If you look at it, we only have 2 action items, then communication from the board. We have a presentation on behavioral health bridge housing, and then after that, we have reports. Let me say this, that DHS director and behavioral health director are out. Or is Connie out?
Yes.
She is out. Okay, I thought so. Emmy and Paul. Okay. So otherwise, let's go right ahead. And it's an opportunity for people of the public to, yes, sir.
On the action items, approval of minutes for 3/23/24. I would would feel guilty if my name was still on the members present because I dismissed myself early.
Okay.
Okay.
All right. That's what you want to do. Okay. So members of the public, if you, we'll give you 3 minutes to talk about things that are related to our work. Ask you to be respectful, but it's important that you share with us what's on your heart and mind with us. Yes, lady.
Howdy, y'all. So last meeting, I made a public comment about adding a seat for transition age youth to your board. Y'all have decided to pass the bylaws as written with the option to go back and amend the bylaws later to add a seat for a transition age young person. I heard a question from you, Tim, about being specific about what a transition age youth is. And I also heard Sharon Wolf say that there could be changes to the Welfare Institutions Code that might cause you to change your bylaws later anyway. So I wanted to, Vernon, thank you for sending us a copy of the which has some of the changes that Proposition 1 will have on bylaws of behavioral health boards. One of the changes is that in addition to 50% of the board membership needing to be consumers or the parents, spouses, siblings, or adult children of consumers who are receiving or have received behavioral health services, at least one of these members shall be an individual who is 25 years of age or younger. So I just wanted to highlight that. I wanted to thank you, Vernon, for sharing that with us. And I'm super hopeful that there will be a seat on this board soon. So we look good.
Oh, great. Glad to have you here again. And so, as we said,
we want to make sure that when we amend it, the wording is right according to the code. And I thought there was a definition or a description of a day that was more than that.
Yes, at the transition age youth division, we define transition age youth as a young person age 16 up to age 26. Foster, let's see, like foster youth, they have some protections up until age 26 as well. And these bylaws state that they don't say the word transition age youth, but they do say that a member shall be 25 years of age or younger, which aligns with our definition.
Okay, I think what we want, our definition, I think a TAPE person that somehow, in some way is involved with what the county is doing in mental health, behavioral health, substance abuse, the TAPE program. And that's what I thought we were looking for. And so when we write it, if it's not in the state that's clearly on that, we can add it. And you sent us a copy of what you have. And so when it comes to us, we'll hear that, back on that, and if we want to make an amendment to have it clear. Okay, other members of the public.
I want to comment.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for coming and showing up to multiple board.
Okay, Oscar, you're a board member. You want to respond to the public person?
Do you want to let the public speak first and then?
Yeah.
Okay, and then is it okay if I have a comment after?
Yeah, we, on communications, everyone on the board shares what's on their heart and what's related to this. So, yeah, you have free time to do it at that time. All right. Thank you. Other members of the public. I'm looking at the Zoom list of names. I don't see a specific member of the public there. So I want to make sure that any members of the public who would like to address this, Sonia.
I'll just give a shout out. Next month is the Mental Health Awareness Month in the TAY Division, along with the Hope Center, and many community partners and agencies are doing walks and barbecues and workshops and events across the county. So hopefully you all are getting flyers for that, helping promote those activities and helping reduce the stigma of mental health in our community.
Great. You're going to be able to give us some written documents that, so that we can help promote it, or?
Sure, I can email Joe the ones that I have. We still haven't received the flyers from the Hope Center that are doing the mental health walk and barbecue, but I can send the ones that I do have so far.
Okay, thank you very much. Other comments before we get going? Okay, thank you very much. The action items, we have 2 minutes of approval. If you don't remember the 323 meeting, that was our retreat. And I want to remind you that it is called a special meeting of the board, and that's it is an official meeting of the board. But someone who was there would like to move that we approve them, or any changes in it you'd like? So, is there a second to that?
Second.
Okay. You're not actually a member yet.
I can second.
Okay.
Thank you.
But I'd be glad to give you the power. Okay, it looks like it's pretty simple, straightforward. All in favor of the approval of the minutes from that time, say aye.
Aye.
Okay. Now the approval minutes from our regular meeting on 3/28/24. It has a lot more in it. You haven't had a chance to scan it. Any things that you think need to be adjusted?
Vernon, your comment earlier, I think as someone, I don't think you should be excused for the 9 a.m. meeting on the 23rd. Personally, I think you were there for a good duration. I think you left appropriately as you needed. So I think you should still be counted.
Okay.
And thank you for your honesty.
Yeah.
Thank you. I'm in support of it. Can we still count you in?
Yeah, that's fine. I just wanted to be transparent.
You are. Good thing. And thanks, Oscar. All right. Any corrections on these minutes? I don't hear any. So all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Hearing no nays or call for amendments, we're ready to move on. So this is the time for communications from board members to share to the board what's on their mind about topics related to us. And Oscar, would you like to start with this?
Yeah, thank you, Tim. I just wanted to say thank you, for being present, for always, being present at multiple board meetings. I do think that we were at the aquatic center, we did go over the bylaws, and we did talk about reaching out and partnering and making sure there was an established connection with Kay, to make sure that we can fill multiple seats. And so we could have a 25 and a 26 and maybe someone even younger, which I think would gravitate towards more different generations, and as well as just value different lived experience. So thank you for being present and making this something to be heard. I just want to be in support, and offer someone to reach out to if there is any other discrepancies or something that prevents it from being fluid.
Thank you. Other members of the board have some communications they want to share.
Vernon Price, board member. I attended the planning commission meeting this past month, or this month. And it was in regards to tiny home villages and encampments.
Yeah.
That informational workshop was an exceptional workshop. There was a lot of meat that was given to the material to digest, and there will be another workshop held in the future in regarding to tiny home villages in tent cities.
Yeah.
The reason why I brought that up is because as people transition off of the street into tiny homes or tent encampments, it improves the quality of their mental health. It gives them some sense of hope. So
yeah.
I'm hoping that this will move forward and we'll be able to successfully say that we've got a tiny home village.
Great. If you would, you can keep us informed.
Okay.
About that on a regular basis.
Okay.
Yeah. And has it been approved yet?
No, it's just in the beginning process of the planning commission. They're setting the ordinance.
Okay.
Making that a stable ordinance. They don't really know what it looks like as of yet because this is the first of many meetings with the planning commission.
So, okay, thank you. Thank you for being here. Other communications? Yes, lady.
I don't know who this or where this should head, so please excuse me. But on a similar topic, like there was a whole lot of excitement a couple of months back regarding the safe trailer parking.
Yeah.
And I was informed this past week that they lost funding for it, and I'm not understanding. Like maybe there's some miscommunication for it, but if anyone knows anything about it.
Is that Eureka?
It's
City?
Arcata.
Oh, it's on Arcata.
It was part of Arcata Partnership, and I'm just wondering if anyone knows anything about that, because I did have some mental health people that I should say, have some people that have trailers. We've gone through the process of getting all their stuff licensed and all that stuff, and then to find out like they're not gonna have it. So if there's anything else like that around,
well,
and somebody could.
Yeah, I was on the board for a long time, so I tracked it, and they had money. I don't know where, maybe this was all the way back to some of the provisions, extra money that came down from the federal government.
Proposition 1.
Yeah, or maybe it's something else, but I know it was almost like one-time only money, and Arcata House Partnership did a bang up job, as far as I know, that the whole city felt good about it. And so that's my only thought. I haven't dug any deeper, but and I know that city council put up trying to get, an extra tax, and I don't know whether to pay for those things.
Well, I know that it was voted on, Proposition 1 and everything else, and like, we're all excited that it's opening, and then it's not.
Yeah.
So I just don't know what happened to it, and.
I do have some information
concerning.
on that.
Yes.
Okay, so they had a one-time funding is how they started the car park. And then the county did come in and help them for a while. They weren't able to secure, funding to keep it going in order to keep some of their other programs going. They unfortunately are gonna be shuttering.
Awesome. It's very sad.
Do you know the timeline for that?
Yeah, I believe it'll be at the end of June.
Sorry, what's on it? That one's gonna be.
The end of June.
Okay.
Yeah, it's either the end of June or July, but I'm pretty sure it's the end of June. I was just speaking with Darlene about it, yesterday.
Yeah. And just to clarify, you said that's some of the services, not the car parking.
The safe parking lot itself, there's no funding to keep it going. The county, generously stepped up and kept it going for them for, a portion of time. But at a certain point, the county was unable to keep on, continuing to support that, and the grants that they had applied for to keep that funding going, unfortunately didn't surface. It's kind of a scary time for grants right now.
It's very sad.
Yes.
I understand Arcade House Partnership was handling a certain part of that in terms of administrating and tracking it and making it happen. Okay.
Yes, sir. It was completely Arcata House Partnership. The county only stepped in to help the program continue for a little while because it was so successful. In these car parking projects, you see some of the highest exits to permanent housing in any of the different programs you have. The problem is these programs for the safe parking are just about as expensive as it is to run a full-blown shelter. And so that's the issue that Arcata House Partnership had to grapple with was, do we keep our shelter open or do we continue to keep the car park open, considering that the car park's, about $800,000 or $900,000 a year to keep it going. That's about the same amount that it costs to keep a shelter going. So they just had to make a decision on where they were gonna focus their efforts.
Is there any other thoughts about where a person could put their fully licensed, fully working trailers?
Yeah.
That don't tell you that you have to have twice the amount of income.
Right.
Because our clients don't have that.
Yeah, it is definitely a void out there right now. We do have some other programs that are gonna be coming up, but nothing like the car park that I'm aware of at the moment. But as grants come out later in the year and things, we might have other partners that are willing to step up. But in the housing and homelessness industry itself, we're seeing a lot of these car parks shutter. It was an idea that really swept a lot of people up. There's some great results from it, but then looking at the expense over time, it's been something, there was one of the ones in Roner Park that just closed. So we're seeing, this is a trend that we're seeing.
Yeah. Well, thank you for that information.
Thank you very much.
It was disheartening, but it's not your fault.
I definitely hear you on like it being pretty much a shelter, because the point of a shelter is to tear it down as soon as it goes up, right? And I think of COAD, right, and all the work that they're doing right now and the connection they have to OES. And this, so a lot of these people, this is a state of emergency.
Oh, yeah.
So it's interesting to see the dialogue of, people's daily debt lives without catastrophe being at that state, but the funding being not as malleable as it could be to be helpful.
Yeah, there's a lot of anxiety around the what funding is going to look like over the next year or two.
Absolutely. Thank you.
So the big funding may or may not go.
Well, what we're seeing is end of the COVID dollars. And so that's having a huge ripple effect. And so, programs that were maybe something extra that service providers were doing, are on the chopping block, unfortunately. And unfortunately, this program, I know that Darlene tried to keep the car park open as long as possible. She's really done a great job with it. They've had really, really good results. But unfortunately, when deciding whether or not, the one stop or the annex would need to close or the car park, it was a pretty easy decision for them to close the car park rather than the shelter. The shelter is basically their intake for the rest of the services and things that they provide, so.
Thank you.
Want to say something?
I do, Vernon Price, board member, I do apologize for forgetting this. There was a proposal given to Director Beck in regards to items for tabling. Though that proposal has been approved and all the items are in except the tablecloth. And I do have the proposal and items itemized and the dollar amount if the board wants that. There was a site visit where I'm hoping that I don't get stoned for this, in a good way. On 3/3/2024, Oscar and myself visited the Hope Center as a site visit. I tried to do a proposal of an ad hoc committee on 3/16/2024. To no avail, my fault, my apologies, that fell through the cracks. The next ad hoc will be better, I promise. If we are able to submit the finding of that site visit to the board, if it's acceptable with the executive committee, I would like to present that at this time.
When that comes together. I'm trying to make sure.
Okay, we have the site visit results right here. We have the notes and the recommendations to program, the date, members involved, and the site that was visited. I have 15 copies of the visit right here for the board, and staff that may want that. If that's acceptable for the executive committee, I'm ready to propose that at this moment.
All right, thank you, and thank you for all that work. There's a phone thing up on our screen. I don't know what that means.
Somebody's on.
Does that mean somebody's on?
Yeah.
It's Steve Madrone, he's driving, he just can't mute, he's just being very.
Oh, okay. Okay, thank you very much. Much smarter than me on that. All right, other communications from board members.
Hi, Tim. See me?
Yes, Debbie.
Yeah, I just, in terms of the many wonderful activities that are going on for May as Mental Health Month, I wanted to be sure that people were aware of the next Saturday's seminar, the May 4th seminar that is being co-sponsored by the City of Eureka and NAMI and DHHS. The title is great. It's Embracing Humanity, and it's going to be at City Hall in Eureka from 10 to 4. It's all day. It's free. I know that's a big time commitment. So if you can't come to the whole day, I mean, it's fine to come to part of it. There will be 2 panels of speakers. My understanding is one is people with lived experience and one is mental health professionals. I don't know specifically who's going to be on the panels. And the keynote speaker is a nationally well-known, you did send Joe Sonia said she sent Joe the flyer, so you've seen the flyer. So anyway, but the keynote speaker is quite well respected and should be very interesting and hopefully inspiring. So just kind of wanted to highlight that event for you all, and sounds like a good event. City of Eureka does it again. So thanks.
Thank you. Thank you. What happens when you get that echo? Does anybody know? Does that mean?
It means that we have we have this speaker and we have the speaker on over there.
That's what I thought. There was like 2 speakers were making that happen.
And they're bouncing off each other.
You're so smart.
So don't tell nobody.
Oh, okay. Don't tell anybody. It'll be our secret.
Tim, is this a time for would anybody comment on what she said, or?
Sure. Thank you for asking, but a comment. You want to hear this? Go ahead.
Okay. Deborah, can you hear me okay?
Yes, I can hear you, Oscar.
Okay, hi. Thank you, Deborah. I just wanted to say that, I'm probably gonna follow up with you about tabling, at the May 4th event, if that's possible, because, North Coast Growers Association is, increasing their CalFresh outreach. And we're trained to sign people up for CalFresh and can also distribute vouchers. If you guys already have someone who is needing of market vouchers, market match vouchers to get people rolling, as market season is just about to head up, main season's about to get launched and around the corner. If not table, we can at least drop off some literature and vouchers to be distributed at that event for that population.
Tabling sounds really good to me. Let's communicate about that via email maybe after the meeting. So I can put you, I think I need to put you in touch with whoever is in charge of tabling, which I am not. So I'll find out who it is though, and we'll communicate. We'll email one another. It sounds like it makes total sense. Great.
Thank you.
Any other communication?
One last thing, and I'm gonna probably say this every month. We actually did set a date for Recovery Happens in Humboldt, and it is September 7th. Our planning starts happening May 9th. We'll be sending out Zooms, May 9th at 5 p.m. So it's like once a month until the event. But it's gonna be at Sequoia Park, and we're really excited. So please save the date.
That date again is?
September 7th.
Thank you.
I finally got it confirmed.
All right.
And we will need people to table up as well. People, places, and things to do.
Can I follow up with you directly?
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Well, mental health board will be there.
Absolutely.
Table.
Yes.
Thank you. So, now's the time for our presentation on the bridge housing, and I'll hand it over to you.
Thank you very much. One moment. All right. Well, thank you for having me here. Very excited to
Tell us
tell you.
your name again, sir.
Oh, sorry, Aaron Zell, Program Manager. I am the COC Entity Manager. So I work with all things COC, work with all of our service providers. So happy to be here today to let you know about this. This is an absolutely incredible grant and program. So really excited to talk to you about it. The behavioral health bridge housing was signed into law on September 22nd through the Department of Health Care Services, totaling $1.5 billion. It is intended to address housing, the immediate and sustainable housing of people experiencing homelessness who have serious behavioral health conditions, including serious mental illness and substance use disorder. So it is very narrow in the clientele that it's looking for. It builds upon the California Health and Human Services Agency's guiding principles and strategic priorities. It enables DHCS and grantees to meaningfully contribute to the implementation of the Cal ICH's action plan for preventing and ending homelessness in California. And these are the timelines for the applications. The grant that we will primarily be talking about today is the one that we applied for in February of last year. It is a non-competitive grant. It had predetermined dollar amounts, okay? There are two more pieces of that we are able to apply for, and those are competitive grants. So you're ranked by your peers, and grants and dollar amounts are decided from that. We have applied for one more of those additional rounds, round 3, and we will be applying for another round, round 4. We're hoping that that'll come out in the fall. All right, purpose and priorities. The primary focus of the BH program is to help people experiencing homelessness who have serious behavioral health conditions that prevent them from accessing help and moving out of homelessness. The BHBH program, which is also called the BB program, provides funding for operational and supportive services not covered by other funding sources to expand bridge housing implementation. So it is basically a funding source of last resort. All other eligible billable grants, Medi-Cal, anything like that needs to be taken care of first. Then once all those funds are exhausted is when the BHBH can come in. The following priorities drive the implementation of the BB program. This is a critical need to focus on immediate and sustainable solutions. Collaboration will complement ongoing state, county, and tribal efforts to address homelessness. The BB program settings will provide supportive services and housing navigation to assist people who have serious behavioral health conditions and are experiencing homelessness. I'm not going to go over all of these, but there are a bunch of different possible settings, everything from tiny homes to master leases, everything in between. Bridge housing settings may be existing facilities leased, owned by either a county BHA, a provider partner that can use faster than a capital project. Some of the interesting things about the BB program is that all of the services in it are intended to be deployed as quickly as possible, which is why there was not quite as much infrastructure. And most of the infrastructure, if you were to go out and build a building, you'd need to have people in beds within 1 year. Not possible with the new construction. So it's really looking at renovation and the purchasing of pretty much turnkey projects. The first round RFA1 was about $908 million to behavioral health agencies. The award to Humboldt County was $7.1 million. As you can see, these are some of the other jurisdictions, counties rather, in the awards that they received. County program administrative requirements. There's a need to designate a program director, project lead, or other point of contact. Coordinate with local and regional COCs and other homeless service efforts within the county. Include people with lived experience of homelessness and serious behavioral health conditions, both SMI and SUD, as part of BB program, programmatic planning, implementation, and quality improvement. Submit policies and procedures for participant assistance funds, rental assistance, landlord outreach, and mitigation funds as applicable. Certain uses of bridge housing startup infrastructure funding will require documentation of site control, insurance, compliance with federal, state, local laws, other certifications. Basically what that means is if we're going in there and purchasing a property, there's certain deed restrictions, et cetera, that go along with that. Submit and update BB program plan using template to be provided that describes how the county BHA will use the BB program funds. Eligible uses and requirements. At least 75% of the BB program funds must be used for costs for operating bridge housing. Again, this is the emphasis on getting the money into the community as quickly as possible and not tying money up in construction projects and things like that. So this was really intended to, as quickly as possible, move the needle for this population. Bridge housing will be established and provided based on community needs, housing first principles, and will include voluntary supportive services. Bridge housing must meet ESG habitability standards when possible and as applicable, should also meet COC housing quality standards. Support access to medication and assisted treatment, MAP, psychotropic medications for the treatment of mental disorders, and prioritize and ensure that eligible care program participants receive BB program service. When care court goes into effect, we will need to prioritize that clientele for any of the beds that we might have. All right, eligible uses continued. County BHAs may implement outreach and progressive engagement strategies to offer encouragement to individuals and families to enter the BB program. Housing navigation and other supports will be made available. Allow for choice, enable people to stay in their home communities to the extent possible. Keeping people where they are rather than pulling them out is always a better outcome for the client. County BHAs must maximize all other funding sources, including Medi-Cal, to the greatest extent possible, and should add new bridge housing beds to the system of care. BB funds may not be used to pay for existing services or housing supports that are currently reimbursed, eligible for reimbursement through Medi-Cal or funding sources such as the MHSA funded programs or other federal or local programs. So really this was looking for not to supplant funds from other grants, but it was really looking to find a new niche of clientele for the new clientele entering the system.
Excuse me, does that mean it has to be standalone, or can it partner with, let's say, Arcata House Partnership to get something done?
I absolutely can do that, and we'll talk about that a little bit.
Okay, sorry.
Yeah, no problem. And if anybody has any questions, please, I forgot to mention, just chime in.
Oh, like not at the end, like right now?
Yeah, if you have a question, you can just go ahead and.
Thank you. You said entering the system. Does that also include the people who are already in the system?
If it is a new service, it actually gets very, very complicated, and we've been going back and forth on the policies and procedures on exactly who is eligible and who isn't. At first, it felt like when we were dealing with the policies and procedures that it was a very narrow window. Now that the program is, about a year on and we're nailing down the PMPs, they really opened it up as far as, they're saying not just behavioral health clients, even though this is behavioral health funding for housing. They're not just saying, hey, just behavioral health clients, but they're saying, hey, well, what about your clients in home and some of our other programs that we have. So it has opened it up as long as this is a new service or a new client. If we have somebody that's already in a program and we're looking to use this money to pay the funding, we can't do that. So the focus and emphasis is mostly on new clientele entering the system or clientele that we are trying to step down out of county placement, people that are being conserved, getting them into local apartments, assisted facility, et cetera.
Thank you for that. I can see the benefit in how once people get in this, because people cycle in and out all the time.
Yes, sir.
Hopefully if they get to this is the last, hopefully they can stay in this one.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Thank you.
Bridge housing reporting, monitoring, and requirements. Enter data on the individuals and families served by BHBH into the local homeless management information system, or HMIS system, as required by AB 977 and all of the reporting requirements that go along with that. Submit quarterly narrative and data reports that documents progress towards improved outcomes. Participate in monthly calls, learning collectives, and other TTA activities, technical assistance activities. Conduct financial review, auditing, and fraud prevention, and ensure appropriate uses of the funds. Provide required program updates and participate in monitoring and reimbursement reviews with DHCS or AHP, which is Advocates for Human Potential, not Arcata House Partnership. So let's talk about some of the allowable uses here. And this is, of these allowable uses, 75% of the funds must be in the following categories. Interim housing and shelter, rental assistance, auxiliary funding, and assisted living. This is commonly referred to as board and care patches, and housing navigation. And housing navigation must be available to all BHBH program participants. The goal of this grant is housing navigation, and so every client helped with this will get housing navigation.
That's what I'm trying to do is
Flexible funding categories, county BHA BB program implementation and capacity building, convene an advisory group, establish a program lead, coordinate with the local COC and state stakeholders, implement HMIS, which is creating the projects within the HMIS system, and submit reports and documentation. Outreach engagement, not a standalone service, outreach to individuals experiencing a risk of homelessness, collaborations with institutions to enhance discharge planning and prevent homelessness. And we'll talk a little bit about that with what some of these funds will be used for. But definitely that discharge planning and preventing homelessness upon exiting institutionalization. Flexible funding categories continued, VH housing startup infrastructure. The startup infrastructure was really, they wanted to allow funding for shovel-ready projects. So you'll see in here that we say that all bridge housing startup infrastructure activities must be completed and beds made available within 1 year of contract and execution. So really, the projects already needed to be either shovel ready or going in and buying something that's already existing and retooling that.
Aaron, have y'all had much success coming out of year 1 to year 2? Finding housing or creating new housing? Are you finding more of a challenge in year 2 as you have year 1 due to the housing market possibly?
So even though this is year 2 of this program, it is effectively our first year. And in fact, services for our round 1 program are only starting up in the next, say, month or so. So it's been a long process of going through and getting the applications, creating the policies and procedures, designing the programs and everything. So it's taken about a year from the application date, which was February of last year. So you know, the funds were awarded, I believe, not awarded, but realized about a month and a half, 2 months ago, and they're doing it in little quarterly chunks.
That was in December.
It was, I want to say, was it December that we received it? I thought it was a little.
December 12th.
Oh, yes. Very good. It seems like just yesterday.
I know.
Tempest Fusion.
Thank you for letting me interrupt.
No problem. All right, so let's get into the program plan here. We are providing 20 rental assistance vouchers with services. Program participants will be provided with rental assistance voucher, housing navigation services, and tenancy sustaining services. The budget includes funding for financial incentives to encourage landlords to rent to participants, as well as damage mitigation funds. So what that means is, you know, landlords a lot of times when dealing with programs like this are a little hesitant to rent. There's worries about damages. Damages can be very expensive. And so into this grant, we have to a certain degree written in, you know, funds to repair the damages, to incentivize landlords to rent. So monetary incentives for signing a lease with one of the participants in this group. 16 units at the Cutton Care Home. This will be an adult residential facility and an ARF that will provide room, meals, housekeeping, supervision, storage, and distribution of medication, personal care assistance, with basic activities like hygiene, dressing, eating, bathing, transferring. This level of care and supervision is for people who are unable to live by themselves, but do not need 24-hour nursing care. Population served with all clients with serious mental illness who need this level of service, who choose to reside at the facility unless they are conserved, in which case they may be assigned to these beds. So again, the stepping people down of out of county placement, out of institutionalized conservatorship, et cetera. Specifically, it is a way of taking people from that placement and stepping them down, getting them back and reintegrating them into the local community.
That's its primary focus as a step down.
that particular portion of it, yes. So we've kind of have a three-prong approach here. And I know that part of this isn't showing on the bottom. I'm gonna try to go to the next one. No, we just have a missing part of it. Part of the slide that is cut off, unfortunately, I do not know how that happened, but there's gonna be also 10 units at the navigation center. So this will be housing first, low barrier, service enriched shelter that helps BHBH participants quickly obtain permanent housing. So a big part of this is creating a flow through the system, so we don't get log jammed. So those 10 units at the navigation center will really help us to accomplish that. And then keep in mind that when Care Court does go into effect, all of these beds will be prioritized for Care Court recipients.
Sorry, Aaron, I didn't mean to interrupt. I just want to make sure just for clarity's sake, when we talk about units, we're talking about beds, right? So we have found a home out in Cutton. I don't know if people are aware of the Cutton Care Home in Cutton, but they're closing. And there's a lot of sort of fortuitous chain of events that led to us being aware of this place, Cutton Care Home. And so we're gonna use the BHBH funds to pay for that sort of board and care and turn that into an ARF. And so that'll add 16 new beds to the system that we've talked about here in the board for a lot of our conserved clients, and that they're out of county, many of them. And so it will be kind of similar to our local TRTF facility and other adult residential facilities that we contract with. But as Aaron mentioned, you don't necessarily need to be conserved. When Care Court comes in, we'll kind of prioritize those beds. But it is sort of in essence, like other ARFs.
Jeanette had a hand up?
He just answered the question. I was interested, because of the way it's worded, I was interested in if they have to be conserved, or because we have a lot of people that are not conserved that really need this type of help.
My understanding, that was part of the plan of Care Court to keep them from being conserved, if you can put them in a service like that. Am I close to that?
Right, yeah, and even with TRTF, we have a segment of folks there that are not conserved. They do prefer that they have a rep payee though, because these individuals are pretty ill, and so there's a portion of that we've got to or I would say that sort of step is kind of necessary, we feel, but beyond that, you don't need to be concerned.
Not to, let me, off of what you just said. So recently there's been a lot of, so clear and concise does payee services for people that are RCRC. The county does does payee services for people that are conserved. So the people that aren't conserved and are not RCRC clients are unable to get payee services in this area. Is there anyone that you guys are aware of that does that?
So the Public Guardian's Office does do non-conserved rep payee services. I think they've done a lot of that in history. They've shrunk that, more recently, but that's more of a staffing issue,
Okay.
which is a global issue, right? It's not something, if they had additional staff, I imagine that they would be happy to do that. And we have done that with folks that need to go to TRTF saying you need a rep payee.
Okay.
We'll call the Public Guardian's Office saying, hey, Kelly, can you sign this person up? And she's like, yeah, sure. And so, we facilitate that way.
So like Social Security will refer for payee.
Right. Well, yes. So what happens is let's say someone's at Semper Virens, right? You want to step down to TRTF. First, you need to have a psychiatrist sign a form saying, yes, this person needs rep payee.
Okay,
Right? You need a doctor to say, this is what needs to happen. And then that goes to Social Security, and Social Security contacts Kelly. But sometimes Kelly will contact Social Security if she knows that we're sort of wanting this process to happen, right? 'Cause,
Well, that's good to know,
easier.
because I was trying to figure out what the hell. I have 3 of them that are,
Yeah, so
that need
yeah,
them and I can't.
kind of starts there. So,
Okay.
you know, I don't know with, you know, the rental assistance and the shelter beds, right? But in terms of the 16 beds here, there is probably, those are gonna be people that do have some pretty serious mental health issues, right? So they would be people that we would say, hey, it's probably good for you to have a rep pay.
But it's not a residential treatment.
What?
It's not a residential treatment program.
It's an adult residential facility.
Okay, got it.
Which is, ARF is a classification of the larger board and care spectrum.
I can't keep up with this.
Beautiful.
I know. It took
That's a beautiful thing though.
a long time.
It sounds like we're almost doubling the number of beds that we have
We're
right now.
doubling the number of, well, I don't want to say doubling, but almost doubling the number of ARF beds that we have in our community. We have Crestwood, which is a locked facility, what we call MHRC. Crestwood also operates a facility called Pathways. The Pathways is a social rehab facility, which very similar, but there's some distinctions there with that. But in terms of ARF beds, which are kind of the lowest level before you kind of get into permanent supported housing, you know, that tends to be the, you know, Sempervirens, MHRC locked, ARFs, permanent supported housing, think about it, continuum. So,
I just want to say, that sounds pretty darn good.
yeah, I can't think of the word, it's like, but it's something like fortuitous that some of this stuff has kind of happened with BHPH.
Serendipity.
There, thank you, that's it, serendipitous that, you know, some of these things that have happened with the crisis res and this funding, this house coming available. I'll just tell you real quick, the reason I know about this house, because we approached the owner when we were looking at crisis residential. We went and talked to them, well, I didn't, Will and Linda, and said, hey, are you thinking about selling? And the owner's like, nah, not really, but maybe in a year and a half. Oh, okay, well, thanks. Exchange numbers. This owner calls Willow Glen saying, hey, yeah, I'm thinking of selling right now. What do you think? And Willow Glen says, hey, Jack, what do you think? Aaron comes and say, hey, we've got these dollars. And yeah, it was really fortuitous how it's all kind of come together. And Aaron's also saying, right, needs to happen right away.
Yeah.
This place, if you've ever seen it, I mean, it's ready to go.
Beautiful.
Yes, that's great.
It sounds too good to be true.
I know.
It's like Prop 1 helped out.
Well, yeah, there is some things about the licensing that we've got to kind of work out. We think it's okay, but there are some, you know, kind of stomach churning kind of things that we hope kind of go well. Good news is a county property, so if we have to pull any strings of planning, hopefully we're able to do that, right? I know.
This is so cool.
Thanks for sharing that background.
Yeah.
And how that.
Yeah, thanks for filling that in a little bit.
Yeah, I think when we talk about units, you know, Aaron's kind of an account type, right? But the bets, you know.
Because I know that that's some of the speculation around Prop 1 is that it's, you know, the people who are existing service providers may not have access to it, but this is a creative way where this community member who's been here and been offering to their community is saying, it looks like the county is stepping up and my business is something I can sell comfortably, and it's probably for something that they're happy to sell for. So thank you for sharing that. And yeah, when's the timeline with them?
So they were really thinking about fall. Again, there's some things that we're trying to work out. And this hasn't been something that we've really talked about in other forums yet, but I think we're close enough that it's good. So they're talking about fall.
Keeping you busy, aren't they?
Yeah.
Good stuff.
Yeah, that's great stuff. Where are we, Aaron?
All right, housing navigation. Housing navigation is the core to what this grant is. So every client that's engaged, receives housing navigation. What they do for housing navigation is they identify the participants' needs, preferences, and barriers related to successful tenancy. They develop an individualized housing plan based on the assessment. Then they search for housing, present options. They assist in securing the housing, including the completion of the applications and required documentation that might be or will be required, assisting with benefits advocacy, including assistance with obtaining identification documentation for SSI, and supporting the SSI application process.
Yes.
A lot of this housing navigation app has also to deal with identifying and securing available resources to provide long-term rental subsidies. So when we put somebody on rental assistance with this program, we will immediately apply for Section 8 housing. We are very, very lucky in this county that we are able to get Section 8 housing in about 2 years. So it's a perfect timeline for how long the rental assistance can last with the grant, and then them having permanent funding for that via Section 8. So
I don't know we have anything close to this now in Humboldt County, right?
No.
This is a brand new creation. I know there are pieces of it, but we just don't have that.
as far as like bringing a lot of separate things together, this has really been a great opportunity for the
I
county.
love it.
Let's see here. Some of this is identifying and securing resources to cover expenses, security deposits, moving costs, environmental modifications, other one-time expenses. And probably most important is landlord engagement. We build relationships with tenants and landowners that have multiple units. And so having those relationships with those landlords is super important, especially when we're talking about the population that we're dealing with. There might be, landlords that have reservations. And one of the great things that the county has done is to step in and make sure that if there's damages to units and stuff like that, the county just takes care of it. It's a significant expense.
They didn't want to do that 2 or 3 years ago.
Yeah.
I'm a subject of that. When I was in Arcata, before I moved to Eureka, I definitely done a no-no. I smoked in the house. And the county just jumped right in and took care of the extra cost of the deposit. And that was a relief off of my shoulders. So I know it's a relief off of other people's shoulders as the county does that.
Yeah, not only for the clients, but for the landlords themselves, knowing that if there's damages, they'll be made whole. And again, not burdening the client.
courts too. And we've got a lot of landlords suing for damages.
Well,
So-
again, and we
In the
need as
past.
many landlords on our side as possible, so it's really, really important. We'll see in some of the financial documents here that we are rolling out things like incentives to landlords for signing the contracts and letting them know, hey, we've got money set aside, so if there's damages to your unit, we will make it whole. Other supportive services, I'm not going to go over each one of these, but these are other supportive services that the VHBH participants will be or may be available to them.
Aaron?
Yes, sir.
I have a question on transportation assistance.
Yes, sir.
Could you give me or give us more clarification? Would that be case managers with vehicles picking up their client? Or would that be assistance with bus tokens or bus passes?
It could be any number of those. Some of it could be with case managers, housing navigators. Some of it could be bus passes. We do bus passes. HTA has worked not only with the COC, but with a lot of other groups in the community, and has really made transportation around Humboldt a lot easier for our homeless community. Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
I want to comment on one of those points there that was made very, very important and aware of me when I went and did the walkthrough at the Hope Center. And it was actually a profound thought, where you think about getting someone to housing and offering what you can. But that last to fourth bullet, group and individual activities that promote a sense of purpose and community participation is profoundly important. And the members, almost every member said that the reason why the Hope Center needs more support and why they go to the Hope Center all the time, it's because it provides just that.
Yeah.
And so just wanting to voice that and just say how important that can be to the longevity of someone's stability in a space as well.
Mental health and all of the, yeah.
So just wanted to reiterate, thank you.
Absolutely. This is a look at the budget. You can see over the years, and I apologize, there's no easy way to get these spreadsheets loaded up on here. As you can see, we are in the second year. And as you can see, funds really start the fiscal year 24-25, which is this year. There was no fiscal year 22-23. The applications weren't even being accepted until fiscal year 23-24. But as you can see, the shelter interim housing programs that you see up at the very top there, that is, those are funds for the 10 beds at the Navigation Center. And for the supportive services and the servicing of those clientele that'll need to be there. It's about $1 million a year. There is $100,000 in there. 10% of eligible activities within this grant go back to the administration. It costs way more than 10% in administrative fees for the county to do this. So they really kind of short sell us on, you know, what it costs to administer this, but it is what it is. We can see that there's rental assistance in there for about $211,000 a year. The assisted living, auxiliary services for assisted living, that's really what, when we're talking about the cut and care home, the vast majority of that chunk that is there is for the contract for the cut and care home. There's some other funds that are in there, some board and care patches, but fortunately, Advocates for Human Potential, the grant, the party that administers the grant has been really, really nice to work with and allowing budget revisions. And continuing to allow budget revisions. If it weren't for budget revisions, the cut and care home wouldn't have been a possibility. And they are continuing to allow us to do budget revisions as time goes on, which allows us to capture some of these great opportunities that are either have just come up or will come up in the future. There is the ability for us to take a look at this and go, hey, here's this opportunity. We want to shift funds. It does require this whole administration process and budget revision and budget narrative, but it does allow for that. That's been one of the great things about working with AHP is they've been really, really flexible. If we look down on the bottom, the second to the last row there, total number of bed nights. So just to put things into perspective, this, when you have one client sleep one night in a wherever they are, institution, apartment, et cetera, that's one bed night. This money will provide 52,113 bed nights. Yeah.
That's impressive. Compared to the 14,000 we have right now.
Yeah, 14,000 for this next fiscal year. And as you can see, it ramps up each year. Part of it is because we know that the first year it is hard to spend all of the money out of the gate. Believe it or not, it is hard to get everything together and to create the workflows and everything in order to get the money spent. So, and I'd just like to open it up. Does anybody have any questions on the budget? This is round one. Yes.
So I thought in the beginning, the total amount that Humboldt County got from the grant was higher. Is this guaranteed for a certain number of years?
We were awarded $7.1 million on this round.
Okay,
And that is over all of these years. So fiscal year 26, 27, the funds have to be spent by the end of that fiscal year.
okay. And how long are these funds? I mean, you know, how long do you know for sure that these funds are going to consistently be available?
Great question, great question. You know, we were talking earlier about how there's a bit of anxiety and nervousness with the budgets and grants for this next year. We already know that some of these funds will be delayed probably about 6 months. So what that means is they're giving it to us in chunks of 25% of the total total award. So it was about 1.7 or 1.8 million dollars that we got. And now that you remind me, yes, it was actually on my birthday, December 12th, that we got the funds for that. And so we know that some of those funds are going to be delayed. So even if we send in our receipts, the way the process works is they give us 25% of the money. We spend that money, send them the receipts, proof of work, go through the audit and everything. Then they send us another 25%. Some of that last 25 to 50% is looking to be delayed 6 months. I honestly don't see that as being too much of a problem because the rollout of this entire grant took a little longer than anybody expected. So for a lot of people, it might work out perfectly. For some people that maybe front loaded it and we're spending more money in the beginning and less at the end, they might run into issues, but the way that we've got it spread out, we should be just fine.
Thank you.
The other thing I would point your attention to is the cost per bed night, which is the bottom line. And as you can see, cost per bed night at $136.59. And I know that to a lot of people, that might not seem very significant, but that is an extremely low cost for providing the services that we are in this grant, the level of care and everything. It is very, very inexpensive.
That includes all the services?
Yeah, that's basically the bed nights. You can get that 136, you can divide that 7 million by the 52,000 or the one into the other, and you'll get the 136.59.
You laid out so many great services, and that cost, it includes all of those?
Yep.
That's amazing.
Yeah, yeah. It's an incredible program that has been written.
It's going to change lives.
I have one more question. Is the Clinton Care Home for it's all bridge housing? That's not necessarily a transitional thing. Somebody might end up living there for 10 or 20 years.
10 or 20 years, the funding for this will run out.
Right.
Okay, however, there's been an awful lot of talk about seeing more housing money come through behavioral health. Because again, these are the clients with the highest levels of acuity and need. So what we're seeing is a shift, a little bit of money coming from sources like HAP, which was not behavioral health at all. It was all housing and homelessness funds. And now we're seeing funds come through like this behavioral health grant. And there's talk of perhaps even more rounds of this coming up. And I would not be surprised if we saw a lot more rounds of this in coming years. And I would at least hope so, because I think that this grant is just what it's doing is providing a huge service for our community. Yeah.
Addressing your question earlier, I heard a number earlier that was Humboldt County applied for a grant February 2023 plan, I think 7 million. Did I mishear that?
907 million was the round one total awards for all counties.
Gotcha.
Our little chunk of that 907 million was 7.1 million, and it's based on a population calculation. And then again, just because the graph or the Excel spreadsheets are so difficult to read, it's about 2.2 million in navigation center operating costs, about 635,000 in rental assistance vouchers, about 3.4 million for cut and care home operating expenses, 817,000 for housing navigation services. That's primarily your your CHOWs and your housing navigators that are actually doing the housing navigation work. It also pays for some of the administration, the process for identifying the people that are being used for this. It's involves more than just behavioral health. It goes behavioral health into the home team. And so really what we're seeing is that this housing and homelessness problem that we have is really a multi-agency situation where there's a bunch of different agencies that are really, going through the process. And so it starts at behavioral health, it ends with the housing navigation, but then again, there's more services that need to happen in order to keep people in. If they don't have the supportive services when they move in, the chances of them falling out of that are pretty high. So the housing navigation and the supportive services after are extremely, extremely important. And again, we estimate that there's going to be about 52,000 bed nights provided by this program. A little bit of a timeline, VHBH Housing Navigation Services were expected to begin on 6/1. This will be mainly your rental assistance that you'll see coming online first. Your next that is going to come online is Cut and Care Home. Rough estimate, October, November, but Jack, you might have a better update on that.
Yeah, that's what they're hoping for, somewhere in the fall.
Yeah. The navigation center beds are estimated to be available about 2 years from now. The navigation center, of course, is yet to break ground, but knock on wood, hopefully we're getting close with that.
Question on the housing, what I'm trying to say, not providing the vouchers. Are they cover the entire or 1/3? I'm not sure, is it floating according to the cost of the rent?
Yeah, it actually takes a look at a few different things. If they don't have funds at all, the rental assistance would pick up the bill for that for a certain period of time. But though we do look at things on a sliding scale. And that brings us to our round 3 application. The $7.1 million was for round 1. Round 3 applications, I think we got that in about a month ago, maybe a month and a half ago. We applied for 1.5 million. This is a competitive grant. So we could either get the 1.5 million, we could get 200,000. There's really no way to tell. We did stack the deck in our favor, knowing what the criteria were for the application. What we did is we took the vast majority of the funds and put it into rental assistance. And if you look down at the service details at the bottom, we were just talking about how proud we were of the $136 a bed night. In doing the services this way and by providing just the rental assistance, we're able to get 31,000 bed nights out of that $1.5 million and bringing the cost down to $48 a bed night. So one of the biggest bangs for buck is we can do, and the better bang for buck we can get, the more people we can serve. So that is our round 3 application. Yeah, it's really great. Yeah. And we are hoping, we know that they take a look at the cost per bed night and total bed night served. So we really looked at this application and said, okay, how can we score the highest amount of points to ensure that we get the $1.5 million? And this is the plan that we came up with. There is a round 4 application. We do not know when it's going to come out. All of these delays in grants and everything that we're seeing from the legislature create some cloudiness on when some of these RFAs are going to come out. But we will at least apply for 1.5 million in that round if they don't knock down the amount that we can ask for. And we are also trying to get things together to include another $1.5 million in infrastructure. Again, any infrastructure project that we do has to have people in beds within a year or close to it. So it is one of the reasons why we didn't apply for 3 million here. This one you were allowed to apply for 1.5 million. for program operations and another 1.5 million in infrastructure. There is no way to have anything shovel ready. So what we have done is looked at what projects are available, and now we are working so that when this comes out, that the project will be able to be shovel ready and be delivered within a year. We will probably use a similar approach in round 4 to what we did in round 3 as far as maximizing our scores on the application. We're dealing with, places like LA County, and all of these other big places. So we really need to use our brains when we're thinking about the competitive grants and what we're doing in order to maximize the score. So. And any questions?
Thank you, Aaron. That was really, really well presented.
Thank you.
I have a couple questions. Can you hear me okay?
Public comment first, yeah.
Can you take this off?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, thank you so much for your presentation. And I think this sounds like some really great programs with some really good integration. In the last several years, it was always my understanding, maybe that's changed, that we had Section 8 voucher money unused every year, basically going back to the government, and that all of our surrounding counties had the same thing happening, and that the reason explaining for that was that there weren't enough landlords willing to rent. Now, maybe with these additional resources of repairs after somebody moves out and other incentives might change that dynamic, but are we still having Section 8 voucher money that goes unused each year? That's my
that would be, yeah, I believe the answer to that is yes. That's more of a question for housing authority, is that's more in their realm. Part of what we are trying to do with this is to start landlord incentives. So we're looking right now at offering $2,000 to a landlord to incentivize them to sign a lease with us. We don't necessarily have a cap on what that level is. We are going to experiment with the $2,000 landlord incentive. We are hoping that the landlord incentive and landlord damage mitigation funds that we have put into this, and we will continue to do more and more of this. And in fact, we wrote even more landlord incentive money and loss mitigation for landlords into the round 3 because we want to start utilizing this, and we do believe that if we incentivize more landlords, that this will pick up steam. And a lot of people that are the landlords, they have more than one property that they're renting. So really what we're trying to do is create an experience for the landlords such that we are who they want to rent by choice, because 1, they know they're going to get paid, 2, they know if there's damages that they're going to get fixed, and 3, they're going to get a nice check, that first month for signing that lease.
And I don't know if it's still going, but when I worked for housing down south, there was a huge tax write-off for landlords.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not sure what it is.
I don't have a whole lot of information on that, unfortunately.
Well, yeah, if I could finish up, my apologies, being on Zoom's kind of tricky to interface. Anyway, I applaud you for what, staff are doing to try and create those incentives for landlords, because clearly we got to change from the current situation where simply they aren't willing. But also given the fact that just any other renter, it can be very difficult to get rid of a very bad renter. And landlords have been experiencing that. So with your new incentivized program, I think you're right. It will kind of turn that tide, and I am hopeful for that. I just wanted to mention something else that's in play here. Vernon mentioned earlier going to some planning commission hearings. The county's working on an ordinance for tiny home villages, tiny home placement and such. Well, I'm working with the Hupa Valley tribe, who has a modular plant that's been shut down for 10 years that can be producing tiny homes from the lumber that they mill from their own forest right there on the square. And when you think about the potential for jobs out there on tribal lands and in the Trinity Valley, this modular plant producing tiny homes could be a really massive win for that whole valley and for the tribe. And so we're in conversations with Senator McGuire to get them the money to do their business plan and then follow up with money to retool and open up that plant. And then I'm hoping 10, 12 million to start building tiny houses to start with tribal housing needs as a good starting place because they already have the property. They can locate these things really easily. Whereas as a county, even once we have a tiny house ordinance, we will still run into problems with where we site these, with NIMBYism and other kinds of things. That's going to be the next barrier to overcome once we have the ability to do them. So I just wanted to let you know that we're hoping we might be able to do this. And one scenario could involve counties contracting with the tribe to build X number of units per year to go on surplus property or appropriately placed tiny village areas and use our general fund money as a loan, as a financing mechanism to build these houses and place them, and then use Section 8 voucher money to pay the rents, thereby paying back the general fund at the county, so that really it just becomes a revolving loan fund. But, my investigations are that Trinity, Siskiyou, Del Norte, Humboldt, all the surrounding counties around Hoopaw, all have Section 8 voucher money that currently is going unutilized and sent back every year. So I applaud you again and your staff for, thinking through the incentives. I hope it works, but this could also be another piece to this large puzzle we call housing. So I just wanted to share that. It's in the works. I'm hoping that within a year or so, we may see that up and running. So anyway, thank you for your presentation.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Yes.
Just out of curiosity, so I'm hearing that the Navigation Center is going to open in 2 years, but Navigation Center services will be starting this year. So before the Navigation Center opens, what are the ways that we can get connected to those housing navigation services, those rental options?
So the slide's not back up. The first year that the Navigation Center funds are there are fiscal year 25-26. And so you'll see that it's in there for 2 years. There is some question as to whether or not any of those funds will be able to be used in that first year, because obviously if the center's not open, there's not services there to be delivered. We do, like I was saying earlier in the presentation, we do have flexibility in this to do budget revisions. So right now, until we get a clearer picture on what's going on with the Navigation Center, we're leaving it in the budget as it is right now, fully realizing that we might have about $1 million that we need to reallocate to other resources, such as the rental assistance for other projects that might come up. So there is flexibility, like I said, within the grant to change that. But that's a good observation. The Navigation Center is probably about 2 years out before it actually opens, and there's, in the timeline within this, there might only be like a year and a half's worth of time. And we will reallocate those funds to other programs, probably rental assistance.
So the services are in the budget that might not end up getting actually used until the centers open.
Absolutely, yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you. Other questions?
Yeah, I have a question. I'm just trying to think about how to articulate it. Just a moment. So Supervisor Madrone brought up a really good point, and it makes me think about what the team looks like on the ground, how many FTPs are being accounted for, because it seems like a good amount of work to go and convince these landlords. And I do know that a lot of the landlords here very much want a tenant they can trust. And I also know that there is a building rapport with the county and some of the residents of this area. You mentioned working with the planning department, and I know that I personally think that the planning department does a more thorough job than private planners, but they're stacked up and very busy. as developments continue to grow in our region. So I wanted to hear and, maybe gain a little bit more confidence by just hearing like what the plan is in terms of what is the manpower, what is the outreach, what is the trajectory for that?
Yeah, absolutely. So when we looked at this program, again, going back to that, how do we get people in beds as quickly as possible? Excuse me. And so we're already, what we're doing is utilizing processes and things that already happen and adding to them. We have to give you an example, we have a tenant selection team and within behavioral health. Jack can speak to that a little bit. And they look through the people that are being prioritized in behavioral health for housing. We're going to use that group in order to help identify people and move people in. So a lot of it is using positions that are already being done, but integrating things a little differently. So that tenant selection team might be involved with identifying somebody for rental assistance and then sending it into social services home program. They do housing navigation all day. That's their bread and butter. That's what they do. So behavioral health has that client navigated through a team that's already doing that work. So some where there'll be an additional person hired, yes, probably one more chow. The rest of this program will have people time study to those locations. So what that means is that people that are already doing that work but might just be working with just home clients might take 50% of their time and work with the behavioral health clients. They already have the relationships with the landlords in the community. And so that's part of what makes this efficient is using the teams that do what they do best, have them do what they do best. And so rather than creating within behavioral health a housing division, why don't we just have the housing division do the housing navigation for those clients? And so that's how this program is working. The thing to keep in mind is that this grant is not, to a certain degree, it's standing alone, but there's some retooling that's going on within our own home department because grants are changing. The way that we are being paid is changing. Part of this goes into going from being grants-based to being following a more braided funding standard where, yes, some of it's going to be grant money, but some of it's going to be things like CalAIM community supports and ECM. So there's a lot of retooling. There's this, looking at this project all alone on its own and looking at the housing navigation, it might seem like, oh, well, there's not as much FTE in here as we would think that we would need for this. Well, the reason is because we're using processes that are already in place and kind of, taking your behavioral health and your social services and having them do what they do best together. So I don't know if I explained that very well, but there is very much of a retooling and how things are doing and how things are going and how that workflow works.
So I'm hearing like using some of the existing infrastructure of people doing this work, maybe will there be more enhanced care managers?
Yeah, actually, there's another grant that we are waiting to hear a response on. It's called Cited. And this is the mechanism that we're using to basically retool the home program in terms of how we're able to pay for the services there. And again, going from being solely grant-based to looking at some of these other services that we can provide through CalAIM and using the braided funding. So using all available sources of revenue in order to be able to perform the services.
So to Steve Madrone's point, do you think that there's enough like leeway right now to be able to do both? To be able to work with tribal entities as a secured way to streamline housing production, local resources, as well as streamlining this incentive?
I think it's a great idea. I don't know if anybody here is aware, but via the COC show, Southern Humboldt Housing Opportunities, they were just awarded $3.5 million for a tiny home village and rental assistance program. And, if like Supervisor Madrone said, if we were a year down the road from now, you know, we'd be talking about, well, okay, can we use these for the tiny homes that we need for the tiny home village that will be created down in Soham? So yeah, I think what I heard from there is great. I know for a fact that we're probably going to see a few tiny home villages over the next 2 to 3 year period. I know that there's, you know, plans in Arcata, there's plans in Soham now. So I think as the issues with the ordinances get worked out, and I think as the tiny home villages become more mainstream, I think we'll see more and more of these. And so having access to the actual buildings and housing via the tribal partners that we would have would be incredible.
Last point, and then I'd like, do you want to say something?
No, I'm good.
Okay, thank
Good
you.
to go.
I've had the honor to be able to participate and continue to participate in Leadership Redwood Coast, which introduced me to the Garberville, Southern Humboldt areas, Redway, and their vision to rebuild that area. And so since this funding is for this entire region, I just want to do a little shout out to that area who's also trying to make housing and living there more of opportunity, right? As they grows, as they do their complete street plan. So I just wanted to voice that, right? Because I mean, I just think it's a lot of work, and I commend you for orienting it in the way that it is, and I'm really happy to see your leadership in this. And I hope that I'm saying these things because I want them to be surfaced, for them to be heard, acknowledged. So thank you.
Thank you very much. And to what you said about our Soham people, some of the greatest people that I get to work with is our Soham people, because they do have so much energy, such a good outlook that they have, and it's good to finally see some money coming into that community there.
Well, so they're finally asking for it.
Yeah.
And they had the people to ask.
Yeah, they do have a great group down there, and you know, in all of the different areas of Humboldt that I work with, there's so much community cohesion there. Everybody knows each other, just a really great group of people, and a lot of great work going on there, you know, that hasn't even been mentioned. So yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Any other questions or comments? Thank you.
Aaron, Vernon Price, board member. Thank you, Aaron, for all the hard work that you've done to put into this presentation and all of the work that you put in up until now. Because without those of you behind the scenes signing the contracts and making sure that the wordage is right and everything of that nature, I thank you for your service. I really do.
Thank you, Vernon. I appreciate that. And thank you for all that you do.
Thank you very much. Going to go on with the rest of the agenda. You're welcome to stay. But you've done a wonderful presentation. So there's not a lot more on our agenda. So if you look at item 8, these are reports. And neither Connie nor Emmy are here. And I don't know if anyone wants to share anything from them. I don't know whether you were given some things to share.
I wasn't intending to, but I was prompted. I appreciate Sonia saying that next month is Mental Health Awareness Month. Certainly I've been around as the Hope Center diligently is working on their plans for that. And we'll make sure we get some information out to the board. There's a calendar out there, as Sonia kind of mentioned, and a few other things. The proclamation, though, to the Board of Supervisors will be on May 7th. And that day is the day, you know, proclamations in the morning, and it's generally read by one of our Board of Supervisors, and then we have the walk. That is, I think, is generally around lunchtime. So it could be anyway, we have a walk that we walk from the Hope Center to the courthouse, and some of our peers read a proclamation there themselves, and so that's kind of the big sort of kickoff event. That's pretty cool. I remember to wear my sneakers and running shorts that day. But anyway, I'll make sure you guys get a calendar.
And green.
Yeah, and green, in my green ribbon, yeah. And then the crisis residential, I think I reported on that. We did get some news. It looks like we are gonna push the start date of that back to July 1. We were hoping for June 3rd, but some construction delays, so that's coming here shortly, after a lot of work on that as well. So that was my updates.
Thanks, Jack, and thanks for all the work that you do. And with that, AOT.
AOT, I think, kind of steady as she goes with AOT. We continue to operate, at capacity there with EA Family Services. We certainly have recognized, as not part of the initial contract, housing, is such a critical need, right, for these clients. Like when we think about CCT, it's kind of a similar program, they have some resource to provide at least motel vouchers or maybe work with a TRTF. And so we're working with that to get EA some capacity to do that. And I'm hopeful that produces some better long-term success with some of these folks that we've had a hard time finding.
What's the budgetary? Because I understand the Board of Soups took some money out of the general fund, if I understand that right. And we're looking at these budget cuts. Natalie would probably be more the one to say, but it seems like it might be challenging for you.
Yeah, I know Emmy was at a meeting with Connie, I think it was earlier this week. And they were talking about that very thing with general fund and AOT, which is a portion of that. And I don't know that we have a good answer on that yet, what the Board of Supervisors will do. We might need to go back to the Board of Supervisors here before July 1 and talk with them about sort of their, and then we'll have to make some decisions, this is a Medi-Cal funded program. So there is, some resource on our end, but, Medi-Cal, the way they do reimbursement, is not always dollar to dollar. And so we'll have to figure that piece out.
Well, if none of you were at that Board of Soup kind of meeting, it was a challenge to get the Board of Soups to move in this direction. And I just think when they stood up, I didn't think they were gonna do it, and they stood up and did it. And I really appreciate that. And the more flowers we can send to the Board of Soups, the better we may go with this. All right. I don't know that we have anything from the SUD committee. Marguerite is not with us and no one else.
We had I went to their last meeting, and it was eventful. It was talking about, a lot of the discussion was about the pausing of people's services when they're receiving treatment, and also when they are going from someone who is not incarcerated and processed in the system to someone who is, and then that putting a little cycle of time where their services are inactive. So it creates billing issues for service providers in our area. And it also is a major issue. So that was one of the major findings. There was a lot of people there to speak about that. So that was good. So yeah, go ahead, please.
So, in that area, one of the things that I was discussing with this group is, the mental health diversion. So we, the courts order people for mental health diversion and, expect a treatment plan to be done while the person, by an outside provider while the person is in custody. And it's just not possible. And so, because their Medi-Cal is different while they're in jail than it is when they get outside of jail, and people that would be eligible to do the treatment plan for them are not gonna do it for free while they're in custody, because they can't bill Medi-Cal. And so it's really put a real, I don't know, for me anyways, I don't know about anybody else, but it's it stretched my box, you know, like thinking outside of the box. It's stretched my box beyond its limits. I'm trying to figure out ways and means to get people out of that. So if anyone has any ideas, please speak up and point me in a proper direction, because it's sad, because our people that are mentally ill and substance abuse users are sitting in jail longer than they have to be because we're waiting on a treatment plan.
Right.
And so, I mean,
It's like they should be on hold, not detained.
yeah, and so, it's become like I have talked to a couple of therapists into doing the treatment plan, but if they don't have a time to, if they don't have a time of when the client's getting out of jail, like they can't set up an appointment for them, you know, to continue services. So like the treatment plan is really null and void, really. It's just a treatment plan if we don't have a plan afterwards. So anyways, just food for thought.
Yeah, there was real challenges with the Hope Center in being a treatment plan for the people. And that's been a hard thing to happen, but the Hope Center is the only place. You know, if you come out, you know, some violence and you need a next step services. And so, but that process, I remember being on that, I don't know what it was, a process, Kelly Jack was there and others. If supervisors can't tell the Hope Center when they're releasing someone, then they can't do their job. And then the question with them was, why not? Because you have clear policies. And the answer came well, we don't have enough staff. And so when somebody new comes on, it might take them a year to even know that they have this policy in terms of a soft handover and to even talk to. And this is one of the sad things about, you know, so much turnover and stuff, not much you can do about it, but that was a hard thing.
And there's another thing too, ethically, it's not ethically correct to do a treatment plan with somebody that you've never met. You know, I mean, if you've talked to them over the phone and you've never had any, you know, if you're trying to do a treatment plan with information you're talking over the phone with, because they won't let you do it on Zoom and from the jail. Anyways, it just turns into like a bunch of areas that just a lot of, yeah.
So let me share a little bit.
It's a shame for our clients.
We have new people here, a little bit of the history. The SUD, we used to have an addiction, I forgot the name of it, the board and the mental health board. And then the whole state says we need to bring those two things together. And it was a lengthy process to create one board to include two. But the SUD board was gang ho, good stuff. And they brought in 4 or 5 people and people with a lot of experience. And over time, we began to lose those people. And so when that happened, we were saying like, gotta save this. This is almost its own program. It's not just another committee. And it's been really hard to see that committee get weaker and weaker until we didn't have anybody from the board to be there. If it doesn't have anybody from the board, they can't actually operate. And now Marguerite is back and she brings in beaucoup kind of experience and energy. And so I just think that's great. And we can continue to have more information about what's happening and how our county is interacting with it. It's another really positive thing.
Thank you.
Yeah, what's going on? So, committees. Are there any other committees out there that have been working on something that want to share, update us?
All right, the chairperson and the vice chair. The chair is not here. Laura, works in services with the Eureka policeman. She said, I got an incident, I can't be there. So she called me out there. So that's why she's not here. So I guess one of the things I want to say as the vice chair, and I've been kind of beating this drum, and particularly with the more new people we have, is that all of the services that have been working are increasingly complicated. This report is like gangbusters, but it is complicated. And so we as a board, if one of our things is to interact with the public and the community and say what's going on, we need that information. We need to come regularly and get it. That's why I started, well, let's have an AOT, let's have navigation, let's have a care court so that we regularly get those. And I just want to keep emphasizing as the executive committee, sometimes I won't have anything to say about the care court, but I keep saying, yeah, we need more information. And so I would like to see us continue to seek ongoing information for the board. I have people asking me what's going on because I'm on the behavioral health board. And like a lot of times I can say, oh, I don't know, they're planning this, and I've heard that. I need to know more information to do my job. And so that's kind of a drumbeat I have. Jack has probably heard it too many times. But
Tim, could we do a brief announcement of the next SUD meeting?
Yeah, please do.
Yeah, I think, Joe, could you correct me if I'm wrong? I think do you have it by chance? Oh. I think it falls on a Tuesday.
Can Marguerite let us know? I don't know.
Yeah, they have to send an email out,
She
but
would be the one in charge of when and where the meetings are.
I think it's May 9th prior to the recovery happens meeting,
Do we have an answer there?
if I remember correctly.
Thursday, May 9th, 2:30 to 3:30 p.m.
yeah.
You have to become a member, of the board. You help us so much. I'm sorry.
2:30?
I did ask because I was not sure.
And then the recovery happens meeting is at 5, so you guys can just stay on.
Yeah. So, now we have actually about 5 more minutes or 10 more minutes. Is there anything new to add to the navigation center? Connie's been on top of that. And what I understand, it's close to breaking, ground on it. But again, a lot of us not sure exactly what's there. When the first presentation comes, we all say, gangbusters. And so for us to continue, and the care court is still out, but they're beginning to work with the courts and to kind of put that on, get it closer to being ready now.
Yeah, they are meeting. I think they have pretty consistent meetings. I'm not sure
Okay.
how often they're monthly or quarterly, but I know that they are meeting with the courts and other, stakeholders on the care court. And
Yeah, that's
we're making some
huge thing that's coming out, or kind of life changing in many ways. Is there any idea when they can open the door?
I'm not sure what the, also too, what the timeframe looks like. I know, another initiative that's kind of around this, right, in terms of trying to assist people with the local crisis benefit, which is about our response to the community. So behavioral health sending counselors and case managers in lieu of law enforcement to, and I know that's been something we've been meeting a lot about. We're trying to figure out how to do that with limited staffing. And, care court, I think, is just sort of, this is a place where we're gonna find referrals for care court, right? Is through these sort of on-site visits or interventions. So I keep thinking like that, sort of getting it in place, and then care court, but I know they're all kind of coming on the pipeline.
Thank you very much.
I don't hear anything else for the good of the order or the community and the universe, so I'm gonna adjourn the meeting and thank you all for being here.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Have a blessed day, you guys. See you later. Okay, cool. Please make sure you.
Just want to say thanks for having me. Appreciate it.
I mean, I think Vernon was just saying a lot of that.
Thank you for all your work.
What's that?